Hi, I'm Bob Trask, and this is our weekly reset. Every week we come together to make each week better than the week before, not by building more intellectual information, but by increasing our consciousness, our wisdom, the depth of our beings, in a sense, much greater than that of just intellect. Today we're going to talk about heart wisdom specifically, and why heart wisdom is so important. And the question that you should be asking as you tune into Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're seeing this is, what is heart wisdom and why should I even care? Is it going to make a difference in my life? Is it going to improve my life? Is it going to give me what I want? Well, let's find out. When we were kids, we had these wonderful, crazy imaginations. And we had such pure lives, such pure hearts. When you see a little kid, like 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and they're walking along, holding hands with their mom or dad, or just sauntering along by themselves, in their little dress and their little pants and shirt and their little goofy hair, they are so sweet. Oh my God, they are so sweet. And part of what makes them sweet is that they are so innocent, isn't it? They don't know who they aren't. They know who they are, but they don't know who they aren't. When I say they know who they are, I'm not saying that they've figured out who they are or that they intellectually know who they are. And there's no intellect knowledge involved in this. There's no intellect involved in that knowing. This is a knowing that's deeper than that. It's like knowing that the sky's blue. Not knowing why, not even caring why, just knowing that the sky's blue. Or knowing as an adult, perhaps, or a teenager, that a certain song makes you cry. Why? You can ask yourself why. And you can come up with all sorts of intellectual answers. None of them are true. None of them are right. Matters of the heart are matters of the heart. And they stay in the heart. And they belong in the heart. And the heart wisdom, the wisdom of the heart, is this amazing and wonderful wisdom that cannot come from anywhere else. So we have an unlimited imagination. When we were kids, we didn't have any limits to our imagination. We could imagine anything. We could imagine flying. We could imagine dragons. We could imagine princesses or princes on beautiful horses. We could imagine anything we want. We saw the world around us with the flowers and the birds and the grass and the smell and the sounds. And we wanted to touch everything, hear everything, see everything, taste everything. We wanted to swallow the world. At that time, our life, we was totally in our hearts. And our hearts were leading us into the wonders of childhood, into the wonders of this garden that we live in, this wonderland that we live in. But then what happens? We start being taught at about 6 years old or maybe 5 years old to use our heads. Come on, let's think about this. Come on, Sammy. Come on, Sarah, think about this. Use your head. Get out of your heart. Stop imagining. Stop daydreaming. Start being on purpose. Start getting intellectual here. And we did. And some of us became really good at it. Some of us are really, really good at it. And those people are the captains of industry. You know, they're multi-millionaires and they've got tons and tons of money and they've got lots of prestige. And I remember being a counselor for one of the biggest defense contractors in the world. And I went, what they had a problem with is communication. The factory workers were not, there was a lot of of accidents, and there was a lot of downtime, and there were a lot of mishaps in the industry where things weren't being done quite the way they were supposed to be done. And sometimes the inspections weren't as good as they were. There was just a miscommunication. And the people at the top of this company, they were all ex-engineers. They were all ex-people. They had come out of college, high degrees, high IOUs, IOU, probably, yeah, high IOUs. For sure. If they came out of college in America, they came out with high IOUs, high IQs, and they took over these companies. And when I went to see them, I could go down on the factory floor, and there were people down on the factory floor just dressed like you and me, just on the factory floor, and they were working lathes or drop hammers or grinders or drillers or riveters or whatever, and they had on their glasses and their soundproof things, and they were doing their work. And if I could interrupt one and talk to them for a few minutes, they were just going through the motions, you know. They got up every morning and they had their cup of coffee and their breakfast, and they just went to the job job, and they just did their job job. And when the coffee truck came by, they had their coffee and donut, and then they went back to work until lunchtime. And it was time to quit, and the whistle blew. They were the hell out of there. But the guys up at the top, the guys in the suits with the little ties, their job was to make sure that this company ran well. But the company was dependent on the actual workers, wasn't it? But the guys upstairs didn't have any contact with the workers because they were the suits. They were the suits, and they were sitting in the suits. So when I was going to see president or vice president or one of the big guys in the company, go into an outer office. He had a receptionist. You know, let me check. Okay, you can see him now. Go back, go through another door, go in. Here's a guy behind his 3-acre desk, you know, and he's all important with his tie and everything. And I'm sitting across from him, across from this desert of desk, and talking to this guy. And I said, do you ever go down on the floor and talk to the people? And they'd go down on what floor? Down on the factory floor. Do you ever go out to the factories and go out on the floor and just talk to the people? For what? For what reason? Why would I do that? To connect with them. Why do I need to connect with them? So that they can feel your presence and they can feel a purpose. Well, they have a purpose. They get paid. They come here, they work, they get paid, they go home. I said, well, how's that working for you? Because there's a disconnect. So over the next week or two, I worked with these guys. And I said, what I need for you to do is when that coffee wagon comes around, I need you to roll up your sleeves, either loosen your tie or take your tie off. Go take off, don't wear your coat, go down to the coffee wagon, buy a cup of coffee and a donut, and just talk to the guys. Talk about what? Ask them if their kids are in school, ask them what they do, you know, just ask them what they do for recreation. Just get to know them. And what I was talking to when I was saying this was absolute fear. These guys had no clue how to do that. They had no clue how to do that. I won't tell you the name of the company because I feel free that I can talk a little bit about it. They didn't have any idea how to do that. And when I finally had a little conference with those guys, all in one room, and I was using a whiteboard, and I was saying, each one of those guys wants to feel like he or she belongs to something bigger than a paycheck, like there's something more important going on here, like they're giving their lives to something more than just getting through for 30 years and then getting their golden watch. They want to feel like they matter. You can make that happen. And somebody would say, how? And I'd say, you got to talk to them. And then somebody else would say, and how do you do that? Now, I tell you, this might sound bizarre to you, like it was bizarre to me. What do you mean, how do you do that? How do you talk to someone? I said, what you do is you go down and you go wherever they are and you talk to them. You just get them in conversation. But they had a problem because they don't talk like the people on the factory floor. The things they talk about are the things they're interested in. The things they're interested in are golf and corporate profits and corporation meetings and those are those kinds of things that the guys down on the floor may not talk about. So, but they're human beings. We're all human beings. And what I try to do, God, I just hope I had some effect. I try to do is get them to go into their hearts. Go into your hearts. Get out of your head. We're all people. We're just people here. And I've done lots and lots of work with businesses and with corporations and with some of the biggest businesses in the world, some of the biggest automobile manufacturers in the world, particularly in Japan, and other electronic manufacturers. And my message to them always was this: listen to me, please. We're in the people business. So if I go into any business, a lumber company, and I say, what kind of business are we in? Like they're hiring me to come in, so they're paying me. And I say, what kind of business are we in? I'm sitting in a group of guys, and they say, well, we're in the lumber business. And I say, is that right? How's that working for you? Well, it's good. We make good lumber, and we get it out on, we ship it to different places. And I said, good. So, and what happens when that lumber goes out there? Well, people build things out of it. What do they build? Well, they build houses, they build homes, they build factories, they build. And I said, and then what do they feel about that? And they said, well, we hope they feel good. I said, do you hope they feel good? Yeah. So can you hope they feel good before you cut the tree down, before you saw it up into a board? Can you actually come from your heart as you're doing the work? Can you look for the experience that you're trying to create? Now, I know that sounds a little vague, but let me clarify it. Keep in mind, if you will, that the heart mind and the brain mind are different. The brain has billions of neurons, nerve cells, and they communicate with each other, and they create a network of intelligence that's just amazing. Oh my God, it's amazing. So amazing. In fact, the neurons in the brain, the little synaptic connections between the neurons, those little gaps, those little synaptic connections, there are thought processes, there are thinking and memory processes. There are more of those little synaptic gaps than there would be planets and stars in 1,500 Milky Way galaxies in your brain right now. That's how vast your intelligence capabilities are. That's how vast the intelligence capabilities are. Now, stay with me for a minute. What if you say, oh yeah, that's great that I have that much wisdom or that much intelligence, but I don't know how to use it all. I don't know how to get to all of it. Now let's talk about the heart. The heart mind only has 40,000 neurons. And from those neurons, there's billions of synaptic connections. But here's the interesting thing. The heart sends more information to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So the brain is getting its information about how to balance all of this information. It's getting more intelligence, more information, more wisdom from the heart than the brain is sending to the heart. The heart is sending more to the brain than the brain is sending to the heart. That means that the brain is dependent on the heart. Dependent on the heart. So if I say to a group of people, so what I want you to do, you've got the Lowball in this factory. This is a lumber company. Is green chain. That's where the boards come off the sawmill, and the workers sort out the slash from the boards, and they put the boards in the right pile, the 1 inch, the 2 inch, the 2x4s, and they're all, and this is mostly wet timber, so it's heavy, and they're working hard. And I say, how well do you know those guys? Give me the names of the guys on the first shift and on the green chain. Nobody knows. You need to know those guys. You need to get out there and know those guys so that they feel like what they're doing is something important. Well, I don't, we don't know how to do that. Well, I worked for one lumber company, and they were kind of falling behind. They were not doing too well. So they asked me to come in and see what I could do. So I said, you need to get each one of these groups stimulated to be a part of this overall team. So I said, let me work with the bottom line, with the green chain. What's the most that the green chain ever turned out in this company? And they told me it was probably about X number of board feet. And I said, that's the most. They said, yes. And I said, what are they turning out about now? And that was like a third of that, or maybe a quarter of that. And I said, so you got a problem right there. And you've got a problem in each one of your each one of your pods in the company. Let me just start with this. And so I went and talked to the people in the green chain, and I talked to them about being a part of the team, and to show this team that they mattered, and to show this team what they could do. And I said, if it doesn't work, fine, you can quit, you can go get another job, you can do whatever you want, but let's just take this one shot. In the next 2 weeks, I want you to break all the records this company's ever had about how much work the green chain did. In the next 2 weeks, they broke all the records. They were amazing. Do you know what? I was talking to their hearts. I wasn't talking to their brains. And went back and talked to the guys in the top again, and they finally got it. They got it. And that lumber company turned out to be one of the big, powerful lumber companies in the country. So I'm not talking, now I'm talking about big corporations, but now I'm talking to you and me. We're just little kids in big bodies with hair in some funny places. We're just little kids. If you think that you're this big, intelligent person and you went through school and high school and college and you got a degree and then another degree and then another degree, and now you have these MDs, PhDs, LS, MFTs that behind your name, that incidentally, LST means Lucky Strike, means fine tobacco. That's my history. So if you've got all those things behind your name, then it makes you feel like you're important. Well, you're not important. I don't care how many letters you have after your name, you're not important. The question is, are you valuable? Not if it's, are you important, are you valuable? And you're only valuable to the degree that you realize that you're reaching out to people. I told all these companies I worked with, you're in the people business. What business are you in? Well, I'm in the people business. I go into a company, walk up to the front desk and say to the secretary or the receptionist, what business are you people in? She'd say, we're in the people business. Yes, yes, yes. We're in the people business. We're not in the dentist business or the medical business or the car business. We're in the people business. And to the degree that we reach the hearts of people, then we win. So I talked to somebody just last week who was having a really tough time. And I won't say the gender, but he or she was in a lot of anxiety about their job and about being able to do the job. And part of this person's job is to sell. Not totally to sell, but part of it is to sell. And so this person felt like that the sales haven't been really good. And so now when somebody comes in the office to sign these papers so that they can sell them extra things, they feel constrained. They feel like it's difficult, like it's an uphill battle, like, oh my God, I don't know how I can get to these people. And here's what I said, and I want to say this to you. I want you to just hear me, because I want you to know I'm talking to you and to me. I'm talking about our brothers and our sisters and our relatives and the people that live next door and the people across the street and the people we see in the drugstore, the grocery store, the hardware store, the people that we wave to on the street. And we're talking about everybody. We're in the people business. We're all in the people business. And what I said to this person is, don't sell them anything. You have all these goodies to sell them, and they're all highly valuable. They really need them. I know what your products are, and I know that they need them. But you can't sell them what they need hear me, please hear me. You can only sell them what they want. You can't sell them what they need. You can only sell them what they want. They've already bought what they needed when they bought the major appliance. Now that they've come into your office, you have to sell them what they want. What else do they want? You can't know that unless you go into their hearts. So what do you do? So this person said to me, so how do I do that? So you stop selling. So you say, so where do you guys live? Oh, you have your own home? What's it like? You have a garden? Oh man, I planted a garden myself this week. I'm just hoping it grows. Are you put fertilizer in your garden? What? And carrot? Do you get all your carrots up, or do you? So yeah, same with me. They get scattered. And one year the rabbits came in and ate all my carrot tops off. And yeah. So what do you guys do on weekends? Now, what I'm doing is I'm getting to know these people, and I'm getting to know I care about you. I care about you. I want to have a heart connection with you. I want you to know that pardon my saying this strange word, I want you to know that I love you, that I love being here to serve you. And incidentally, there's all these other things that you could buy with your plans, like insurance and a whole bunch of other things. If you're interested in that, I sell those products because I totally believe in them. I buy them myself because I think they're valuable, but I don't want to hustle you into anything you don't want. Then, this person started selling more and more stuff. How come? How come this person started selling more and more stuff? Because that person was in the people business, not in the head business, in the people business. You and I are in the people business. The heart mind is the seat of wisdom. The brain mind is the seat of intelligence. The goal is to have them both working in harmony. And today we're talking about the wisdom of the heart, because for most of us, that's the center that we've been ignoring, haven't we? Do this with your head. Because we learned from we were little ones that our value depends on how much we know, on how high our IQ is. So what if you took an IQ test and your IQ was 100 or 105? Then you're just barely above average. But what if you're super, super successful? Then that means that you're leading with your wisdom, with your heart, rather than your learning intellect, and you're changing the world by your presence here. I'm talking about deep insight. I'm talking about intuition. I'm talking about that instinctive intuition, deep insight, natural knowing that makes us call people old souls. Old soul Mother Teresa said, all that we need to know, all the wisdom in the cosmos, we'll find in our own hearts. When I was a kid, we lived in a housing project. We didn't have much money. So we were pretty poor, and I joined the Boy Scout troop at a local church, and they were going to go on a scouting trip, and I wanted to go on that scouting trip. So I said to Mom, please, please, please let me go. Well, she wouldn't have let me go because it would cost a few bucks, and we didn't have the money. And also, these other kids all had backpacks and scout uniforms and sleeping bags, and we didn't have any of that stuff. So finally, she said, okay, you can go. But I came from the mountains of New Mexico, and we camped a lot in the mountains of New Mexico when I was a little kid. And I could remember waking up in the morning, looking up into the pine trees and hearing the birds and hearing the ripple of the stream going by and smelling the campfire and the coffee, because Grandpa was always up and had a coffee pot on. And I remember those mornings, and I remember those days, and I remember the oneness with the forest and the oneness with the river and catching a trout and the joy. And I remembered all that. And I wanted to go on this camping trip. So finally she relented. She made me up a bedroll. Bedroll just means some blankets and a sheet rolled together and tied with the rope. And so when they came by with the truck with all the fancy sleeping bags and packs, she threw that on with my sack of, of Campbell's tomato soup or whatever was available. And we went off to the mountains, and the kids were teasing me about, you call it a sleeping bag? What are you going to? And we got to the mountains, and a couple of the kids went off with me to build a little camp with me. And we became really, really close friends. I really loved those two guys. And, you know, we warmed our can of soup or whatever on the fire. We had a little fire, and then we poured out, and then we made tea in that soup can, which tasted like soup tea. But it was, I remember I was like 9 or 10 years old. I mean, that was over 75 years ago, and I remember it. I remember every part of it. I remember every part of it. I remember it like it was yesterday, because it was in my heart. You had those experiences when you were a little kid, and they're still in your heart. That's who you are. This big important person that we have to pretend to be in our society, that's not who you are. You're a little kid. And your heart can give to your brain the wisdom that your brain needs, in order for it to be fulfilled. Because if the brain's just got numbers, then you've got this calculator that just runs on automatic 24 hours a day, just turning out numbers that mean what? That have what meaning? All that stuff in your brain has to have a meaning, and the meaning comes from your heart. So let's go back to what we want, whether it's a new car or a trip to Tahiti, whatever it is. It's not the thing we're looking for, it's the experience. It's the experience. So I ask you today, when you start looking at your life and looking at what you want, think about the experience of what you want. That comes from your heart. How will that feel? How will it taste? When I get in that car and sit down, how will I feel? What will my experience be? And if you can experience that now in your child heart, if you can experience that now, then that message goes out into the universe and creates that reality for you and brings it to you and the experience. But if you just use this and you save up all your money and you buy the car or the whatever, the trip to Tahiti, whatever. I can't tell you how many people that went on these fantastic trips to Tahiti or to wherever and came back saying, I don't know, the food wasn't that good, and got the mosquitoes, and people are not real friendly. The other person on the same trip said, my God, I was in paradise. The difference between the head and the heart, got to be in the heart today. We've got to be in the heart today. The great psychologist Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens. Danielle Deport said, if your goals aren't synced with the substance of your heart, then achieving them is not going to matter much. And we have to start training ourselves right now, today, to trust our hearts, to learn the voice of intuition and instinct. The brain doesn't know anything beyond what it knows. It can't imagine. It's anchored in fact, in intellectual certainties and proofs. We know now our universe does not arrange itself so that we can understand it. But as children of the universe, we don't need to understand. We can see a tree and feel its love in our hearts if we can just be in our hearts, like little kids. We can look deep into the eyes of a loved one and not only listen, but hear the voice of that loved one's heart. So let's practice. Let's take some risks, and let's trust our hearts to lead us back to the garden of joyful ecstasy of childhood. Let's dare to be kids again. Let's do it for a day. and let a day feel like a week, because when we were kids, days felt like a week. Let's let the week feel like a month, because when we were kids, a week felt like a month. And let's let the month feel like a year, because when we were kids, a month felt like a year. It was so long between our birthdays. Oh my God. Let's make that happen again. Let's go back to living life rather than having life live us. Because it's not about how fast we can swim or how fast we can run or how fast we can walk or how fast we can work. It's about experiencing every bit of life as we're swimming. William Hazlitt said, "The seat of knowledge is in the head. The seat of wisdom is in the heart." Helen Keller, beautiful Helen Keller, born deaf or was deaf and blind, said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." And finally, Cheryl Hamada said, "Listen with your heart. Listen to your inner voice of wisdom. Listen to your dreams. You know what's right for you. You know in your heart what's right for you. Trust it. And today, go out and play like a kid. Will you just do that, please? I need more kids in my world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with me. If you wouldn't mind stopping by bobtrask.com, go to the donate button and leave a donation. Please do that today. Do it now, but while you're thinking about it. And those of you that are going to hang around for a little while, we're going to have a little conversation, tell some jokes and laugh and be kids for the next half hour. For the rest of you, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.